Hey, this is Akiva from Twisted Tree Farm, giving some pruning tips today. A lot of people get confused about pruning and intimidated by it, but it's really all about understanding the system of the tree. It's like a plumbing system almost. And so you have all this water coming up the main stem. By the way, I'm standing in front of a young Asian pear, and so you have all this sap and water coming up the main stem, and then it goes out all these different directions. And if you think about plumbing, you don't just stop. The water has to go somewhere. It has to have an outlet. So you always want to have outlets for wherever you're going to make your cuts. So if you just go up to a tree and you want it to be shorter and you cut the top right off, then the outlet is nowhere, and it'll just make its own, and it'll send up a whole bunch of sucker shoots straight up in the air. And it won't be very productive as far as flowering and fruiting goes. So you always want to leave outlets. So for example, let's take a look at this tree here. Now, if you have, it's tough to show with the camera. I should have somebody else filming this one day. Anyways, I don't today. So, for example, if I wanted to make this tree shorter, and I just cut the top of this main leader off, this is the tallest stem. If I just cut that off right there, then it's going to come out this side bud. But it's also, what's going to happen is there's a hormone in this terminal bud, the top bud, and that hormone is actually suppressing all these other buds from making shoots. And so these are going to make leaves or flowers maybe. And if once you remove that top bud, that terminal bud, now that hormone's not there, and all these other shoots are going to feel free to make branches. And so you're going to have a whole bunch of branches. So instead of making the tree shorter by just cutting that one stem right off at wherever you want it, let's say you want it this high, you just cut it there, then it's going to have all these shoots coming out. So you'd want to have an outlet. So an outlet might be, you go down to this branch right here, this union, and you'd cut it right above that union, and then now the outlet would be this side branch, right? So that's kind of how outlets work. And then the other thing is you can influence the direction of where you want stuff to grow, right? So here, this side branch, I actually don't want to make this tree shorter, but I was just saying that as an example. So this side branch right here, I actually want it to grow more out and less up. And so if I look at the buds, I can decide which direction it's going to grow. So if I cut it right here above this bud, now this bud's going to take off in the spring, in the summer, and it's going to grow back towards the center of the tree. But if I cut towards this outside facing bud, now the branch is going to grow like that. It's going to grow more out. So I'm just going to do that. And when you make a cut, you don't want to cut like too close to the bud. You want to cut just a little bit above it. And that's a little bit high, but that works fine. It's better to be a little bit high than a little bit low. Try not to be too fussy, otherwise you'll just drive yourself nuts. But that's pretty much a perfect cut there. It's a little bit sloped, so water can run off it. And now the bud is facing in the direction I actually want that branch to grow. So this is just a young fruit tree here that I'm training, and I want it to have lots of nice, strong lateral branches. I'll talk really quickly about the angle of the branch because it's super important. So the angle of the branch is what makes a branch strong. So right here, this branch is coming out at this angle. This is going to be a really strong branch. This is going to be a kind of branch you can step on and climb one day. But let's see if we can find a narrow angle. This tree is pretty great. If there's a narrow angle, like right here, if you can see that, this branch is coming off at a very sharp angle. But so what'll happen is, you see this line right here where my finger is? I don't know if you can see that, but as these two branches grow, they're gonna be right next to each other, and the bark is gonna be touching from one side and bark from the other, and you're gonna get what's called included bark. And so that bark it's not gonna be strong. It's not gonna hold anything together. And as those branches with the narrow angle grow older and bigger over time, this branch on the outside will get heavier, and it'll pull out, it'll split on like a day where there's a lot of fruit or a lot of ice and snow and stuff like that. There's a lot of different things about pruning that you can learn. The main thing is to make sure you're leaving outlets and make good cuts. Don't leave big stubs, and don't cut through branch bark collars. This is a branch bark collar right here. See that ring of tissue? If you cut through that, let's say you wanted to remove this branch for some reason, and you cut too flush with the trunk, and you slice through that branch bark collar, then it's very hard for the tree to form callus tissue and heal that wound. So, but then if you cut it out here and you left this stub, then that stub is also going to be really hard for the tree to close up. So if you cut just past the branch bark collar, it'll close it up and heal over really nicely. So just a few tips for pruning fruit trees, and I hope you guys have fun out there, and don't be too scared. Just enjoy your time here on this planet. All right, thanks a lot.